Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Happy New Year. It is January the 1st, 2019, and it is a Tuesday. And tonight's topic is why silver is the best and the worst. For the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about the annual performance of gold and silver and also some recent history in both. But before we do that, let's take a look at what gold and silver are doing now, and then we'll get to the game changers. We've got some questions here, and let's see what gold is doing right now. Gold is down $1.30 at $12.80, and silver is $15.44. So not much movement there, but remember, tomorrow the markets open for the first time in 2019, and let's take a look at the futures markets. It looks like it's going to be an up day tomorrow. So far, the implied open for the Dow is up about 100 points, and the S&P also going to be up about 10 to 15 points. NASDAQ 30 to 40 points, and that would be about a half a percentage gains. That could all change by tomorrow morning, but it looks like markets are ready to start the year on a higher note. All right, well, let's get into the New Year's business, because obviously we're in a new year and people are making New Year's resolutions, and some people are not making New Year's resolutions. I put up a quick poll to see what you guys are thinking about New Year's resolutions, whether you make any. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking about for myself, Smaulgld, and so on. Then we'll go through the news of the day, and then, of course, we'll hit our topic. Silver is the worst, silver is the best. Now, did you make any New Year's resolutions? I asked to the crowd here, the game changers. 40% said yes. 7%, that's one person, said yeah, and I broke it already. I want to hear from that person. Wonder how hard it was to keep that New Year's resolution for a few hours. Must be an interesting story. No, 53%, over half said they don't make them. And there was another answer, no, other than to make a few next year. I'm not sure that's a resolution at all. Bit of an afterthought. But we do have 40% of the people who are making resolutions. I'm certain that they are in a positive direction, and I wonder who already broke theirs. Now, as for me, I generally don't make formal New Year's resolutions, because generally I try to make them as I go along. If I see something that needs to stop or needs improvement, I generally address it at the time. But looking at the markets, I mean, 2018 was a strange year because it was a killer year for the cryptocurrencies, getting whacked down after rising in 2017. But as far as the general equity markets, the Dow Jones was down just 5.6%. And we had the plunge protection team triggered into action. We had Trump exhorting the Fed to stop raising rates. They were killing the economy by the dip. And then you had all of the perma bears who've been out for the last 8-10 years saying that the world is going to end. They take this 5.5% drop in the stock market as a sign that they were right, taking victory laps. They predicted the collapse and so on. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in 2019, but I think it's a bit early to say that everything has collapsed, because the market's gone down just a little bit. It's gone down just a little bit. In fact, it's now gone up the last 3 sessions. I'm not making predictions on the stock. I did make that one prediction on silver, and we'll follow it during the year, and it could be completely wrong. But you're not going to hear from me justifying myself and saying, well, I was kind of right, I would have been right if I wasn't wrong, and that kind of stuff. I threw it out there. It has to do with silver rising in 2019, a few dollars. I mean, I call it skyrocketing, but if it does rise $6-7, that's a 40-50% gain, so I would call that skyrocketing. Most of you felt that that's not going to happen, but hardly anyone thought that it's actually going to go down significantly in 2019. But where I'm thinking for 2019, what I want to do is I want to get back to interviewing the Smaulgld subscribers. We have a series, Smaulgld Subscribers Sound Off, where we get all you game changers on. And those are some of the best conversations that I've had A lot of you have great insights. You know, you're experts in yourself. You know what's going on. You can give your experience. You talk. I think people learn more from that than from listening to somebody spinning off speculations and fantasies about where the economy's going. And generally, all these big channels, they spin these tales, these narratives, and everybody listens to it. Everybody thinks they're so smart, and I got to listen to them. And they end up losing money because they listen to people telling them that, you know, either one or the other. It's either doom or there's some hope out there that something's going to happen. JP Morgan's got 800 million ounces of silver. Q, my mom says this is going to happen. Schmidt, gold back yuan. All these game changers. China's going to roll its gold out into a stadium. Now, people listen to this nonsense, and I'd rather listen to people who actually make sense than to tune into those stations. And it's one thing if you want to go on and on about your fantasies of what's going to happen to the world, or some doom is going to happen, or some hopeful scenario, or when Lambo. Keep it to yourself. I'm not interested. Okay, so it hit when I said when Lambo. There you go. All right, well, I think we're back here. I don't know what I was saying. What I was saying is it's okay to speculate. It's okay to fantasize about dollar collapse and doom and gloom or some hopeful thing that you think is going to happen. But that's not what this channel is about. This channel is about facts and analysis. And I'm going to speculate. I'll tell you, it's speculation. I'll give you the reason for the speculation. But once you move into fantasy land about 800 million ounces of JP Morgan, where's the facts, where's the proof? It just has to be that way because we want to believe that. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I'm not interested in. And this year, I'd like to hear from what you guys are thinking, what you're saying, but I'm definitely not going to go back into this 100% speculation, gold back yuan, Schmidt, China's going to roll gold out into a stadium and all that kind of nonsense. Because it actually is an insult to your intelligence, but unfortunately, if you get hooked into it, you continue to listen to it, and it just becomes addictive. And anyway, you guys know, or most of the people are probably here, have been with the channel for a long time, and we don't get that many new people, but we continue to hold on to the existing crowd. You understand where I'm coming from, and I'll continue to put out the charts and the facts as I get them. Now, sometimes the charts and the facts and the data that's there, perfectly normal to question that data. But what I'm not going to do is just totally dismiss whatever official data I have and say, well, it's a bunch of BS because I want to promote some fantasy that actually things are 100% different. So say, for example, when I report on the U.S. Mint numbers, and I have no reason to believe that those numbers are incorrect. U.S. Mint numbers are down. The reason I can tell they're down is I talk to bullion dealers. They're not selling as much as they used to a few years ago. My website has more traffic now. It has the ads up. It doesn't sell as much as it used to. But yet there's people out there saying, oh, that's because the mint doesn't want people to know how much they're selling because people are buying silver hand over fist, and if they let it know, I'm like, there comes a point where you just want to believe something, or someone on some YouTube channel has told you that's the case. Anyway, that's not what we're going to do in 2019. We didn't do it in 2018. We're going to stick to the analysis. We're going to stick to the facts. We will speculate. We will label it as speculation. We will invite you to speculate. But as far as some of these fantasy scenarios, we're not going to get into that here, where it's all down to either it's doom and gloom or some type of ridiculous hope. Nothing wrong with being hopeful. I don't want people to, and it's the same thing. I'm not against gold and silver, but what I think it is a disservice to try to convince people of these. I guess it's if you have gold or silver derangement syndrome or Bitcoin derangement syndrome that you somehow believe that Bitcoin, gold, silver, whatever it is, Litecoin are going to change the world. They're going to change your life. You're going to be better off for it, and you just have to live in hope. And unfortunately, for some people, that hope is that everything collapses. So they hope everything collapses so that their gold and silver goes higher, and that somehow they're going to be in a better place. They're going to be better off. They're going to love everything. They're going to buy city blocks with a monster box of silver eagles. Unfortunately, that's how most of the gold and silver, Bitcoin, Litecoin analysis is. We're not going to do that. All right, so that is my view for this year, and I do want to get back on to the Smaulgld subscriber sound off series, and I think my first guest, I've been promising him to come on, is Crypto Shrugged author. We'll have him on, and anybody else who's interested in coming on the show. If you're interested in how the format is, I basically give you the floor. We talk we talk before the show about what you want to talk about. We either do it by email or we get on the Skype beforehand. And then basically I ask you a couple of questions and you have the floor. I don't debate you. I don't hound you. You get to say what you want to say. And as you start talking, you get more comfortable. I try to make you comfortable. And generally, we've had some really, really good conversations. People like to hear them. So that's a Smaulgld subscriber sound off. If you go to the Smaulgld channel, go to playlists, you can find that. I think we've done 40, 50 interviews. Almost all of them have been with people. And this isn't a cut. You haven't heard of them, but that doesn't mean that they're not any good. It just means that they don't have a YouTube channel. They're interested in having a YouTube channel, but they do have valuable experiences. We've had people from different countries, India, Romania, all over the world, all over the United States, giving their impressions on what they've seen in the markets, their lives, and so on. So if you're interested in doing that, you can email me at smaulgld@gmail.com. All right, what else have we got for the news before we move on to why silver is the worst and also the best? Well, let's look at the cryptos. We haven't looked at the crypto prices yet. They are up. Now, we're going to get into Backed and Fidelity and Ericex in a second. But first, let's look at the crypto prices. Bitcoin, 38.23. That is up about 3.61%. Bitcoin Cash, $163. That's up 10%. Ethereum is up. Oh, look at this. This is the mark. This is the mark of the beast. Up 6.66%. That's up $140.44. It's a good thing it's not up $666.66. Litecoin up to 31.82. That's up 6.5%. And Ethereum Classic at $5.24. That's up 5.84. Now, let's talk about what's going on in the crypto space. So there is this company called Backed, and it is a joint venture, some type of arrangement. I don't know if it's a joint venture or a corporation with, I think it's a corporation that has shares split between Microsoft, Intercontinental Exchange, which is the parent of the New York Stock Exchange, Boston Consulting, and Starbucks. And they've been talking for the last couple of years about creating a trading platform where they would have futures, and those futures would be physically delivered in Bitcoin. And also they were going to come up with ways to store the Bitcoin and ways that people could then also convert that Bitcoin into currency, fiat currency, that it can be spent at places like Starbucks. Now, this thing was supposed to launch at the end of December. It didn't. They cited some regulatory issues and also that they had more interest, more customers. They had to sort out all the kinks in the system, and they said they were going to launch, I think it was January 12th. Well, they've since canceled that date and said they didn't quite get specific as to why, but I think it has to do with this. They also announced yesterday, 2 days ago, that, no, it was yesterday, that they had received another $182 million in funding. And part of the reason I think there is that they pushed the delay off is I think they wanted to get in what's called, pre-launch money, because it would be more expensive for people to get in after they launch. They also have issues with saying they were insider trading. They were trading on the news. They knew they were going to get in on this. It's not really insider trading, but it doesn't look right that if you give somebody a deal at $182 million, you bring $182 million, which means they create a valuation. So you put in your money on the basis that maybe this entity is worth $1 billion, $2 billion. I don't know what they didn't say what they valued the company at, but you know it's more than $182 million. They're not putting in $182 million, and that's what the value of the company is. They're putting it at some multiple of that. And since the company doesn't have revenues, they just make up some number. But I think that they're doing this before they launch, because once they launch, then obviously the valuation would go higher. They wouldn't be able to sell as many shares and so on. So I think they're doing this to give it time to settle, to bring this money in, and then also to hook up more customers, maybe to even announce more coins. Because once they get clearance on Bitcoin, it's probably not going to be difficult to get clearance on adding other coins and making the exchange an even bigger deal. Now, this is a New York Stock Exchange. So the reason I think this is a big deal, and this has been part of my thesis of why I think 2019 is a year of institutionalization of all this cryptocurrency stuff, is the New York Stock Exchange, I mean, you can't get any bigger or more institutional than that, is setting up a cryptocurrency platform. And they're using Microsoft for technology. They're using Starbucks as the point of sale retail. And if you think about that, that is the holy grail for cryptocurrencies, is being able to buy the proverbial cup of coffee. Well, who sells the proverbial cup of coffee? Starbucks. So this seems to be geared at integrating the payment system, the storage, the trading platforms, and the e-commerce, or the point of sale commerce, all into a very integrated program that is very institutionalized. It's not some anarcho-capitalist dream where people are peer-to-peer trading. No, they're trading on the same way people trade Apple stock and other stocks. They're trading on a registered exchange. They're having them stored pursuant to all of the types of arrangements that they have with ETFs and so on. So I think this is a big deal. And the only thing that's delaying it is the delay of the launch, because it's now going to be launched a little later. But the idea that it just raised $182 million, I don't think that anyone who invested the $182 million is counting on this not happening. And they must have received certain assurances. Obviously, if you're going to fork over your money, you want to know what's going on, where are we with the regulatory stuff, what are the plans. They wouldn't put their money into this if they didn't think it was going to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but to me, that's a very good sign that it's going to happen. Now, also, it's not just the New York Stock Exchange that's going for this type of trading platform. Fidelity, which is the largest trading platform, privately owned company, by the way, Fidelity Investments, is also setting up a trading platform, and they're also invested with NASDAQ Ventures in an exchange called ErisX, and they raised about $30 million earlier last month. This is why I think these things are set to, I'm not saying set to skyrocket, but set to become a lot more mainstream, reduce the volatility, and so on. Now, before we move on, I just thought this was it's an interesting story, but I also like when they use the word game changer. Japan discovered a rare earth mineral deposit that can supply basically the world, the global economy. And there's a quote in there saying this is a game changer for Japan. And I suppose indeed it is. Now, rare earths aren't really that rare, but they're not really found in many places. And they are used in a lot of different industries, and they're essential. And most of them are in China. There's one small deposit out west in the United States. I forgot the name of the company, but it didn't do very well, and it's no longer, I don't even think it's in production anymore. But apparently Japan found this mineral deposit, but it's offshore, but it belongs to them because it's off their shore, close enough to their coast that they can claim it. Just another point here that's somewhat related to silver is copper production is 4-year high. Now, a lot of silver is produced as a byproduct of mining copper, so I don't know what that's going to impact, but Chile is the second largest silver mining country in the world as well. Okay, now I think, yes sir, indeed, I think it's time to play a Moronica. Yeah, so let's get to that. Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent.
This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
That's moronic. Well, Paul Krugman, now, many of you may know him as a Nobel-winning prize economist, and I think he's made two very major moronic types of predictions over the last couple of years. About 15 years ago, he said that the internet would never become more important or impactful than the fax machine. Well, we know that the fax machine was never that impactful, but the internet has fundamentally transformed our lives. And then he also said when Trump got elected, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. He said on the night of his election that the stock market will fall, and he then went on to say that he thought that it would never recover. The stock market would never recover because Donald Trump is president. And now today, our Nobel Prize winner and economist had this to say. He's commenting about some op-ed piece where he wrote his op-ed in the New York Times about the stock market never recovering. A good piece on the true nature of the Christian right. I just add, now this isn't even in the New York Times op-ed. He says, I just add that many of us have known for years that morality was never the issue. It was always about white patriarchy. Nobel Prize winner of economics, understanding the Christian right, in a tweet, no less. Now, the other thing that I just, before I move on, and the problem I have, now this is an economist, and this is to my point why I don't cover politics generally. I may cover a situation like the Mueller probe, but generally politics and culture, they're not at the top of my list of things to discuss because, as the byline says, this is about cryptocurrencies, economics, gold, and silver. However, politics and culture influence economics and thereby influence the prices of gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. So I have to cover them. But one thing that really always irks me is when I see stuff like this. Let me show you what I see. Get rid of that. Yeah. Got to be a little quicker here with the videos coming up. I'll just show you this. All right, so here you go. Washington Post. Right-wing leader Jair Bolsonaro set to become Brazil's president. Anytime I see that, I always counter that with left-wing media outlet reports Jair Bolsonaro set to be Brazil's president. It's always a divisive issue when the right wing wins for a left-wing media outlet. They always say that the person is a divisive figure. But if a left-wing person wins, they don't call the person left-wing. They basically say the person's there, he's going to heal, he's going to unify, or she or he, or whatever. So this kind of always characterizing something that is not what they agree with is either right-wing. I'm surprised they didn't write far right-wing leader. But the interesting thing about Jair Bolsonaro is the Chinese call him Tropical Trump. Why? Well, because he is a nationalist and he wants to kick out the communists and he wants to even go after Venezuela and work with Trump. I don't know what he's talking about, what he wants to do with Venezuela. But the point is the guy is not a left-winger. So he obviously then is far right. But more importantly, putting aside the politics, is there's this whole, and again, this is not a fantasy. It's more of a speculation. It's a bit of nonsense when they keep saying the BRICS have had it, the BRICS are going to crush the dollar, the BRICS are meeting and they're going to do this and they're going to de-dollarize and the dollar is going to go away because, okay, so the BRICS are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They're really not countries that are aligned in any big way. A lot of countries belong to a lot of organizations. This is almost a Goldman Sachs acronym, BRICS. But a lot of people that pump gold like to think that the BRICS are, they've had it. They wake up in the morning and they go out and they buy gold and they think of ways to end dollar hegemony and all that kind of stuff. Well, first of all, and I've talked about this, is that India and China are not big buddies. They have got massive disputes over mineral deposits in the north of India. Russia and China are close, but out of convenience. Russia and China are historic enemies. South Africa, I don't know what they're even doing in that. I'm not sure why anyone's aligned with the government of South Africa. And then you've got Brazil and China. Well, this BRICS alliance isn't very strong because, as we've mentioned, China's Belt and Road is being... There is another group that is providing competition to the Belt and Road, and that's called the Quad. Well, who's in that? The United States, India, Australia, and Japan. So it's not like India walks lockstep with China to crush the dollar, as the people who keep saying the BRICS are going to crush the dollar, the BRICS have had it, and so on. India, in many instances, is aligned with the United States. And in fact, Apple is now going to move its, not that Apple is the United States, but Apple is going to take some business from China to make iPhones in India. So India and China are not big buddies. Russia and China are not big buddies. Well, Brazil now, China is concerned. They're calling Bolsonaro tropical Trump, and they're concerned he's going to pull a Trump on them, and he's going to start changing the relationship between China and Brazil. So you've gone from BRICS to BRCS, because I don't think India's tight with China. Well, now you got rid of, I don't think Brazil's tight with China. Now you're with Russia, China, and South Africa. And I think eventually the United States is going to make some type of better relations with Russia, because they're going to do the same thing many presidents have done. You use one against the other. What Nixon did, you create a wedge between China and Russia by favoring one over the other. And in this case, it looks like that might end up being Russia, because we're now having word that the Chinese want to sink a couple of aircraft carriers out in the South China Pacific Sea. You've got the trade war going on. So it's possible this whole BRICS thing, which never was a thing in my mind, might end up being just CS, and that's China and South Africa, and I'm not sure that that's going to be a formidable group to crush the dollar. Because also, if you look at each of these countries in terms of reserve currencies held by central banks, no one holds the Brazilian real. No one holds the Russian ruble. We're going to see tomorrow the Russian ruble had a very bad year against gold. No one holds the Indian rupee. 1.5% of overall global reserves are held in Chinese yuan, and no one holds the South African rand. So I'm not even sure how this is even a thing. But of course, if you listen to these speculators and fantasizers of dollar collapse, well, then you might hear otherwise. All right. Now, it's time to get into silver. And here is why silver is the best and the worst. Tomorrow, we're going to look through gold prices in 2018 from about a dozen or so different global currencies. We're going to look at them over the course of time. We're going to look at them over the course of 2018. And you'll see the trend that's going on with gold. And then we're going to do the same thing the following day with silver. Look at silver versus a bunch of global currencies over the last few years. But here's something that you have to know. And people keep saying that silver is store of value. Silver is set to sky. All silver has been, not just historically, not just the last 50 years, but the last 5 years, it is a spike and dive metal. There's no two ways around it. What you're looking at here, the 5 best and worst annual, what was that? Annual percentage gains from 2003 to 2018. So what I did was I looked at the top gains that silver has had and gold has had, and the worst losses that they've had over the last 16 years. And not surprising, when silver has a good year, it's got a really good year. That 83% was 2011. You can see the top 5 gains in any given year were silver. And you think, well, that is great. Then I am buying silver because silver goes up the most, and silver is more rare than gold. And I like silver because I watch a lot of channels and they like silver too. No, the problem with silver is that it usually follows with a dive. Look at the worst years. Only 1 year did gold really do really badly, and that's 2013 when it fell 28.3%. Silver, on the other hand, will go back down as fast as it came back up. 35.9%, 23%, 19.6%, and 11.5%. Let me illustrate it in a different way if the point isn't quite clear. And we're going to go through this over the next couple of nights with more charts. I just don't want to inundate everybody with a bunch of charts. I'm only going to show you 2 about this. But here's another one. Now, this is years in which gold and silver fell versus local currencies for the last 16 years. 13 years. No. 15 years. Okay, if you look at the Australian dollar, the second one. Silver has fallen, or the Australian dollar has gained versus silver half the time. That means in a given year, if you're storing your wealth, so to speak, you're an Australian and you're down there throwing alligator on the Barbie, whatever you do down there, and you think, my money's safe in silver. No, it's not. You might as well just have it in the Australian dollar, because half the time Silver lost 8, yeah, it's 8 out of 16 years. United States, you would have lost money 37.5% of the time. Canadian dollar, almost half the time, silver has gone down since 2003. Same with the Swiss franc, same with the Chinese yuan. The euro, you'd lose money almost half the time, 43%. Against the pound, 37%. Indian rupee, 1 out of 3 years, you're going to lose money holding on to silver. That's not a store of value. If you can hold on to your own flawed currency, even the dollar, it's gone down 37.5% of the years. And when it goes down big. You can lose 10, 15, 20%. Again, this isn't a knock on silver. Doesn't mean that silver has so many properties, and they are finding more uses for it every day. So what? The value of it isn't going to be held for whatever reasons you may like silver or like gold or whatever derangement syndrome you may have. It is not reflected in its store of value. That property doesn't exist. It goes up and it goes down. It spikes up and it goes down. Now look at gold on the other hand. And again, I'm not praising gold, but gold is promoted as a store of value, and indeed it is. It does far better. Look at Australia. Half the years, you would be better off in the Australian dollar. But look at in gold. Only less than 1 in 5 years does the Australian dollar actually outperform gold, which means it's far better than a coin flip. And if you leave it in over time, you're going to be better off. Now, the one thing about silver, though, it almost, over this period, almost has the same return as gold. But that means you would have have bought it and sold it in the year when you got 81%. And you'd have to have done that in 2010 or 11. I think it was 2010. 2011 actually went down, even though it hit its high then. The point is that unless you've held it for long periods of time, silver can't even compare, because in the short term, you may be in the 5-year period where silver does nothing but go down, where gold isn't going to do that. And we're going to see those charts tomorrow. But here, just to keep going, look at the Indian rupee. Now, this makes total sense why Indians save in gold. Basically, only 2 years out of the last 15, 16 years did you actually do better if you held rupee. So it makes total sense why at the end of the year, when a farmer collects his rupee, he immediately turns it into gold and holds on to it. Why? Because he's got a great chance that it's going to outperform, meaning it's going to hold its value better than the Indian rupee. Silver, he's got 3 times less the chance. 1 in 3 years, the Indian rupee actually outperforms the rupee. And you can see, if you just take a look at that chart, it'll be on the website tomorrow on Smaulgld.com in the show notes, but you can see that silver, and this is not a short period of time, 2003 to 2018, 16 years, that silver will, I mean, it's not a bad store of value, but it's in no currency are you better off holding your savings in silver than gold. And then you say, yeah, but I want to get the spike. You really have to get that big spike, because even over this period of time, even with those big silver spikes, as we'll see tomorrow, gold still has outperformed silver. And you don't have that roller coaster. And remember, if you miss the spike, then you're really screwed, because that's like 4 years worth of gains. And then if you get in the next year and then it goes down the next 4 years, then you're host. Anyway, this isn't investment advice. This is just factual. When people try to say that silver is a store of value, it's almost as volatile as gold. Now, on the speculative side, yes, silver could be the year when silver, if you go back to the other chart, if you happen to have bet right that that was the year you wanted to be in silver instead of gold, well, you had at it. Those years here that you see, gold performed lower. That's why gold never got above, 30% in a year. So silver does have that potential, but you have to keep in mind it is a speculative metal. It is not the same thing as a store of value the way gold is. Gold is much more boring and holds its value. Silver is the devil's metal, not for this reason, but you could say for this reason. It is a spike and dive metal. All right, let's see what you guys have been saying, thinking over in the comments section here. All right. Happy New Year. Ann is here. Smaulgld game changer. Mate says it's Wednesday morning. Down from the Australia. De La Villa's here. All right. Let's see. My silver worst investment. Can I enter you, Ted Butler? Do they spin and steer? Sound lost audio. Oh, Lewis, you slammed the mute button by accident when you said Lambo. No, I didn't slam it, Joe. What happened was I don't know what happens. The stream cuts out. Seems to happen a lot. It's YouTube, that's for sure. My favorite Smaulgld gold videos has turned out to be the live podcast. I had to adjust my schedule, but look forward to it. Well, thank you, GS. Russian agents, we need a scapegoat. Everyone's wishing everybody a happy new year. All right. Pablo Pina, was this show supposed to start at 7:30? No, I put it up at 7 o'clock. I did change it. It probably was, and I flipped it back to 7. I do that once in a while. Sorry. Yes, you did get a reminder for 7:30, Pablo. RevTune, I used to not like what you have to say about silver. Then I realized it was true. Now I buy gold. Now remember, that's not investment advice. Those are just facts. It depends on why you buy silver or gold. If you buy silver because you think it's going to go higher than gold, that's not a bad idea because it can go higher than gold. It does go higher than gold. But if you think that it's the sure bet, as a lot of people try to keep saying, oh no, silver's the sure bet. Silver's undervalued. Gold-silver ratio's out of whack. No. Historically, that's always been the case. Gold is much more solid. So, and again, this isn't investment advice, but history says if you want to put something away and not have to worry about it as much, at least historically, as something else, you buy gold. If you think you want to do a little speculation and you want to get a little bit of a potential store of value, then you buy silver. But when people idolize silver, and the problem is, once you get silver derangement syndrome, you can't believe that it's not a store of value the way gold is. Silver is rarer than gold. Silver is so useful. You just hear all that stuff, and you cannot believe that gold might perform a role better. And it comes down to the fact you start to worship silver, you start to worship gold. I'm only showing you the facts here. And again, a lot of people all say, well, it doesn't mean this is going to always be the case. That's true. Gold could lose its store of value safe haven, and then silver could be more valuable and go up higher because it has an industrial use. I don't know that, and I would speculate if I were to say that. But when I show you this, these are historic facts. This is the way it's been. It's not like, oh, but it's different now because the last 5 years have been different. This is the way it's always been. Well, hold on. Let me show you. I want to give you a chart from that's going to actually come up tomorrow, but I'll show it to you now. And this is a frightening chart here. Let's just see if I can get it for you. It's a bit of a spoiler. I won't show you the markup I made of it, but I call it Scary Silver Chart. All I could say is, what the heck is this? That's a silver chart. What is that? That is about as spiky and divey as you can possibly imagine. And I'm going to get rid of that because we're going to discuss that tomorrow night. I mean, that is nowhere near the stability that gold has. And then, of course, here's your 1 year gold silver ratio. All year, it's unsustainable, it's unsustainable. Well, okay, went up all year. Oh, but that's only 1 year. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't listen to this channel or that channel. Okay, 5 years. Unsustainable. Silver gold is unsustainable. Everyone all along here, you got to buy silver. Smoke and buy silver. This is unbelievable. I can't believe how cheap silver is. And then look what happens. Well, that's only 5 years. Okay, 10 years. Let's take a look at 10 years. I mean, you're staring reality in the face and you're listening to people who are telling you otherwise. Well, there you go. There's 10 years. And look how fast it went down to 31 and then how fast it went right back up. And look where it was before it went down. It was up around 75. These are facts. There's nothing here. This isn't me making it up. This isn't me praising gold or I'm a gold bug and I don't like silver. No, I know what I can see. Silver is not a 16 to 1, 9 to 1, 1 to 1. Never has been. Or at least not in the last 150 years it hasn't been. In 1980, it was there for like 46 seconds. 16 to 1. And that's it. Here, at the big spike in 2011, it was a 31, 32 to 1. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. And you can believe that the future will be different. That's fine. But I've been hearing this chart during this period, for a 10-year period, they've all been saying all this stuff about the gold-silver ratio going down to 16 to 1, 9 to 1, 1 to 1. I'll show you charts tomorrow going back 150 years. It doesn't happen. But that's what people want to believe. That's what you want to believe. You can believe it. All right. Let's get back, and then let's call it a night unless we got more. And it says he had the bell on but didn't get a reminder. Well, that's typical. That's YouTube. Well, when people really start buying a higher price to reflect that, that's the hopeful, wishful MK Hearns. Yes, silver to skyrocket. That's right. And if the U.S. Mint wasn't lying about those numbers, people would be buying even more. Oh, God. HOS, LOL. Buying city blocks with a monster box. I heard something very similar to that. Wishing silver stays low as possible. I got 20 years. Why? See, you believe. See, in your mind, you think that silver, because you've heard it a million channels, you've bought into it, that silver is the most important thing in our lives. And therefore, you have to have time to buy silver. You've had time to buy silver for 10 years. It's gone nowhere. I hope Litecoin goes on back. Well, that's possible. Let's see. South Pollard, Parkians. Let's see. La Plata Pink. I could see buying crypto to support YouTubers. Absolutely. You know, I put out a tweet there the other day. Gab was saying they don't care about the price. They don't. They're not a crypto heads. What they care about is the fact that people can send them, because their payment processors are cut off, people can send them Bitcoin and Litecoin and whatever else they got set up, and no one can stop them. They don't have to worry about what they say. Say, oh, no, you're not allowed to send Gab any money because they're responsible for X, Y, or Z. No, that's the best thing about Bitcoin and Litecoin. All right. All right, everyone. Well, I got to get going here. So I want to thank everyone for your game-changing comments. And tomorrow we'll be back. We're going to take a look at gold through 2018 and a bunch of different currencies. We're going to do the same for silver the following night. So thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to get your Smaulgld mugs. They're game changers.